Big Red, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, just making sure volume's working.
Okay.
How you doing, Chris?
What's going on, Gray?
How you doing, Coach Chris?
All good, man.
Good.
How's your basement?
Drying out.
Good.
There he is.
Casper, glad you could join us.
Yeah, glad to be here. Is that me?
Jules is currently hiding himself. He's been eating too much pasta.
Right here, baby.
Oh,
I'm right.
there he is. There he is. Casper, show us the baby.
He's sleeping. I'm gonna be giving him to mommy here in a quick second.
Look at him. How old is he now?
7 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah, he's pretty amazing and tiring.
We'll give it about 30 seconds here, Mike Casper, okay?
Sounds good.
Got some people, it looks like some people signing in right now.
Can you hear me fine?
Yeah. All right, Mike Casper. So we'll go ahead and get started here. Looks like we got most of our people here are listening on audio, handful on video. So everybody, I'd like to introduce to you Coach Casper, Mike Casper from Georgetown University. He's one of the assistant men's coaches there. If you don't know, Georgetown just came off an impressive national championship run, beating Virginia in the final on penalty kicks in December. So they are the current national champions. Coach Casper is a longtime friend of mine, and Coach Jules, who's on here as well. We played together at UMBC, and we're lucky enough that he's willing to give us some time tonight to talk with us about a couple different things. His national championship run, talking a little bit about training and staying motivated on your own, and then obviously touching on the college recruiting process or any questions you guys might have about the college recruiting process and how it might have been affected by everything being shut down right now. So Mike, thanks and welcome.
Yeah, no, thanks, Coach Mike. I appreciate the chance to be here. I love what is going on with the Baltimore Union, and just love seeing what you guys are doing as a club. Love seeing the growth and the development of it, and happy to be here tonight and spend some time with you guys.
Awesome. So for those of you that haven't used Zoom much, up in your right-hand corner, if you're on a computer, you can click on speaker view, and that will give you mainly Mike Casper and myself and whoever's talking. If you're on the view with 75 people on the screen right now, you can change that. So Mike, let's get started. Back when we last saw you in late November, you had come in and done a coaching session for our coaches over at Essex Community College one night. A great possession with a purpose session, and answered some questions for our coaches, and they loved it. And a handful of them are on here today. So why don't you take us through? I think you're going into that time, a game against Washington in the Final Eight. Why don't you take us through those last 2-3 weeks of your season?
Yeah, no, for sure. What an exciting time. I mean, what an exciting time. It's to get a chance to play an Elite Eight game at home, is such a cool thing, right? Such a cool thing. And really what that means is it's one game at your home site to be able to go to the Final Four, right? Because the Final Four we know is at neutral sites down in Cary, North Carolina this year. And, so you're one of 4 teams hosting a game on your home stadium against another really quality team to have 90 minutes to decide who goes to the Final Four. Really, really cool setting. The place was absolutely packed, probably had about 4,000 to 5,000 people there, and it was an intense atmosphere. One of the only times all year that actually we gave up the first goal. We were really fortunate this year. Georgetown, we were a really, really good side, and all throughout the NCAA tournament, we were finding ways to jump on teams early by scoring, kind of that first goal in the first 5-6 minutes, first 10 minutes, and really putting teams on their heels. But this time we gave up a goal probably in the 7th minute or so against Washington, who were the Pac-12 champions. And found a way to get a goal back in the second half, and then about 6-7 minutes later, as we all know, goals change games in soccer, right? Goals change games. So the first goal went in for us, second goal went in, and we wound up coming from behind 2-1 to book a chance to get to the Final Four. And place went absolutely crazy. It was an unbelievable experience. Our guys were really, really excited. It's only the second time in school history that we'd been to the Final Four at Georgetown, and so it was really a chance to do something special. Moving on down to North Carolina, we played Stanford in the semifinal. And for those of you guys who don't know, Stanford didn't win the national championship last year. That was the University of Maryland who won that. But the 3 years immediately before that, 3 years in a row, Stanford won it. So you're playing against a team that's got a whole bunch of success. We were able to beat them 2-0 in the semifinal, and then move on to play Virginia. Now, if you know anything about college soccer and who wins championships, you've got teams like Indiana, who's won, I think, 7 or 8. You've got teams like UCLA, who's won 5 or 6, and then I think you've got UVA, who's won 5 or 6. And so you are playing like the elite of the elite when it comes to the college soccer world. And we were able to battle back and forth with those guys. They scored first. We scored 2 to go up 2-1. They tied it to make it 2-2. We went up 3-2. They brought the game back 3-3. I mean, an unbelievable game, back and forth, 2 attacking teams. And then it goes into penalty kicks, and the drama that unfolds with penalty kicks, as you guys know, is unbelievable. We went through 8 rounds, right? So the 8 rounds, 7 kicks each for both team all went in. So the first 7 kickers for each team all went in. 8th kicker for us comes up and scores, and then our goalkeeper makes a save on their 8th kicker, and the place just went bananas. It just went bananas, and it was everything you'd think it would be to win a college national championship. It was really, really fun, and something that I'm going to remember for a long, long time.
Mike, two things that I took away from, and I think we had a handful of our coaches and players that ended up coming down to your last game there against Washington and supporting you. So it was pretty cool. A handful of them are here on the phone. But in that national championship game, 3-3 game, usually you get to a World Cup final, a College Cup final. They're pretty low scoring. Neither team really wants to take chances. That game, and we talked with a lot of our coaches after that who watched it, was very wide open, but still a very high level of play. You want to talk about how uncharacteristically wide open that was?
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, going into that game, Coach Mike, you were looking at the 2 best defensive teams in the country, right? So both Virginia and us, I think Virginia conceded like 10 goals, 11 goals all season. We conceded 12. So you're looking at the 2 best teams in the country defensively, right? Going into that game, no one would have predicted 3-3. But what both teams believe in is the desire and the wish to play the game the right way, which for us means keeping the ball, possessing, attacking with numbers, trying to commit guys into the attack, trying to make ourselves dangerous, trying to catch them on the counter when they've put us into our own half, and really just playing free-flowing attacking soccer, because that's what Coach Weiss, our head coach, believes in. It's what our guys love to do, and it's a really, really fun way to play. And not that we don't concentrate on defending, because we do. Like I said, we were the 2nd best team in the country defending all year. But then we also believe in getting after it and going forward and scoring goals. And so maybe the reason why that one went so crazy is because UVA scored in the first 7 minutes. They scored a goal against us again in the first 6 or 7 minutes, which kind of opened up the game. And then we scored 2 goals within I think 15, 20 minutes after that. And so you're looking at 2-1 going into halftime. Now the game's wide open going into the second frame. So it was a really, really a fun game to be a part of. 2 defensive teams that really got after each other offensively.
One thing that they noted on ESPN and the coverage on ESPN is that you guys had split games with your goalkeepers all year, basically rotating them every other game, which, is common in maybe youth soccer, but it's not common when you get to the higher levels of high school or college soccer.
Yeah, we know one of the strengths of our team all season was our depth, right? So when you think about, again, in college or in the pros, right? In the pros, you're only allowed 2 or 3 subs a game. In college, you're allowed more subs than that, but you don't see many teams doing that. And so we regularly rotated about 18, 19, 20 guys through our lineups in a game. And like Coach Mike said, that included our goalkeepers. We have 2 very, very good goalkeepers on our team. Both, I think, are destined for the professional ranks when they're done in college. And, they both kept on pushing each other. They just kept on pushing each other and forcing each other to be great. And neither of them really faltered, so we're like, there's no reason to choose one because both of them are outstanding. And, one of the things that it really did was it forced each guy, whether it be on the field or whether it be in the goal, to continue to raise their level every week, because that's what the rest of the guys on the team were doing. And as a result of that, we had really high level play across the whole field for the entire season.
So looking at the now 60 some folks that are on the call, of the players that are on here, Coach Casper, talk to them a little bit about, obviously, you played at 2 kind of different levels or played and coached at 2 different kind of levels of college soccer, kind of a mid-tier Division I school, in St. Francis, where you coached at before, and now at Georgetown, who's reached the ultimate prize. Talk to the kids about, not just like the level of competitiveness between the 2, but what it really takes to get there and be in that. What's your roster, 20 to 25 guys?
Yeah, I mean, our roster at Georgetown fluctuates anywhere from like 25 to 28 players. Some smaller schools are limited, or some schools have less than that. But yeah, what it takes, right? What it takes to make it to the college ranks, and that's any level, right? That can be Division I, that can be Division II, Division III. What it really takes is a personal commitment. personal commitment and a work ethic to go along with that commitment that is going to push you to those levels, right? It's every kid who starts out playing soccer when they're 5 thinks they're going to be the next, Messi, right? They think they're going to be the next Ronaldo. They think they're going to be the next Pulisic. And what stops a lot of these kids from becoming that is stuff gets in the way, right? Stuff gets in the way. Their focus changes. Things that they become serious about changes, and that's not necessarily bad. It's not awful, because that's life, right? Figuring out what you love to do and what you want to be passionate about. But at the end of the day, if you want to be passionate about soccer, if you want to play in the college ranks, if you want to play professional one day, the best thing I can advise for you is do you have the personal commitment to do that, the discipline, but then also the work ethic to go along with that? Are you really getting after it every day? Are you really putting in the time to work on your ball skills, to do video sessions with your coaches? Are you really doing all the things necessary to put you into that realm of possibly making it there one day? And, I'm fortunate at Georgetown to have a bunch of really, really talented kids, but also kids who really, really want to be good, and they really want to be pros. And getting a chance to work with them every day is a lot of fun for me, because the motivation for them when they show up every day, it's there.
Awesome. So let's, I guess, kind of pivot. Congratulations again on the national title. I mean, it was a great season, but let's talk, obviously now everybody, including the college soccer game, is dealing with the pandemic that's going on and not out on an actual soccer field. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing at Georgetown with the players, and then talk a little bit about how all these guys and gals on this call, how they can be doing things at home.
Yeah, what a strange time, right? What a strange time we all live in, and something that I don't think any of us could have ever expected to see. And the need to stay safe and to stay distant right now is real. Right? It's real, and our kids, just like you guys, they're not going to school in their buildings anymore, right? We're doing online school. We're not together. We're not seeing them every day at practice. And, we're trying to come up with creative ways for them to stay involved, stay active, and to continue to grow during this period. And the one thing that we told them kind of before we left was that the team that handles this period the best, in terms of however long we're away from school, or however long we're away from our teams, whoever handles this period the best is the team that's probably going to win the national championship next year. And so as we think about that, we can't work together as a team anymore. We can't do functional work. We can't do, team defending. We can't do counterattacking, those kind of things we just can't do. But what we can do is work on our individual abilities, right? And what we can do is focus on our fitness, right? So we can grow in different ways that maybe we wouldn't have taken as seriously if we were with our team, right? So what we're doing with our team is they've got a running plan. They've got a fitness plan that they're supposed to be doing 3 to 4 runs a week. We have a lifting plan where they're looking at 3 lifts a week, that our strength coach has been able to put together. So we have a running plan, a lifting plan. And then we've also got some skill work that these guys are doing every week. And one of the cool things that we've done, and I don't know if this would work for you guys and your teams, but we've put it to our team to challenge each other. So what we've done is we've given, one guy goes, the next 4 days, another guy goes. And what he does is he challenges everybody in a skill competition, right? So if he goes out in his backyard or in his basement or wherever he can find his driveway, and he comes up with his own creative skill competition. It can be juggles, it can be cuts, it can be turns. We had one today where a guy was using his basketball hoop and he was volleying balls into the basketball hoop to try to score goals. So it's got to score baskets with the soccer ball. Just creative ways that these guys are able to work on their skill and then challenge the rest of the team to match that. So now they put it on video in our group chat. Now the whole rest of the team has 2 or 3 days to try to match that challenge, and I thought it was really cool. And one of the things we also do is we keep track of that as a staff, right? As a coaching staff, we keep track of these things, so if a guy comes up with a task, he gets say, and no one can beat it. No one can beat his score. He gets 3 points, right? If you can tie his score, you get again 3 points because you tied it. If you beat him, If you beat his record, the guy who created the task, you get 4 points, right? If you try it and you show a video showing it that you tried it, you get 1 point. And so basically at the end of the spring, right, at the end of the semester here, after everyone's gone and created these challenges, we're going to have a tally table of like who did the best in terms of coming up with challenges, but also attempting other guys' challenges and meeting challenges, right? So at the end of the day, that's a fun way that we've tried to do something to make working with the ball fun, right? Because if you're not motivated or if you're struggling, having, why am I doing this? We're not going to be playing for months. How am I getting better as a player with these kind of things? If you have struggling with some of that motivation, how can you make it fun? How can you make it a challenge? How can you make it a competition? How can you make it more about what your team is doing versus what you're doing? And, we found that for the kids who are also, like I said, extremely motivated already, this is a great chance for them to continue to compete, to continue to battle, and can continue to, challenge their teammates, their friends, their buddies, through group chat. And it's a pretty fun way that we've thought about doing that.
Mike, do you have some players right now that are struggling, I guess, mentally with, motivating themselves on their own?
Yeah. I mean, again, we're quarantined, right? Like we're stuck inside. We can't go anywhere. This is a really, really hard time. And, mentally, this is a really difficult phase in terms of, okay, how am I going to get better now? Like I can't go on the field. I'm not allowed to go on the field. What can I do to get better? I can't go to my training sites. How do I get better? And mentally is really the most important part of development right now, right? Being able to handle the frustration of not being able to go outside, being able to handle the setbacks of saying, okay, I can only train in my basement right now, but it's still the most important time for me because that's the time I have right now, right? That's the time I have right now is the time in my basement. It's the time in my driveway. Although it might not be what I've hoped for, what I would like, it's the time that I have right now, and how can I make the best of it to win this moment right now? So what we try to do is we talk about that with our players, and we try to talk about the importance of making every day count while they're dealing with a very difficult situation. And if you can get everybody thinking about not only their individual growth right now, but what that's going to mean for them in 3-4 months time, 2 months time, whenever this thing is over, how much better they're going to be in 2-3 months time, it's going to help them motivate them. And when you talk about what it's also going to mean for our team, right? What it's going to mean for our team, the fact is, if we can handle this period the best out of the whole country, right? The whole country, then we're going to be the team that's going to be standing there at the end. And I don't know if that's in our cards, if that's going to happen next year in terms of what's in our future. But what I do know is that motivation in terms of, okay, how good can I be at the end of this thing? How good can our team be if collectively we're all doing this? And at the last point is, can I win today, right? Can I win today? Because if I let today go by and I don't win today, then I've lost a chance to get better, right? And so if you can think about those things, what it means for you, right? What it means for your team, and can you just win today? Then you've got a really good chance of keeping motivation, in those moments when it gets hard, because it does get hard.
No, that's great. I think that's a great example. I mean, I wrote down here, win today, right? And there's an old saying with the Ravens, John Harbaugh, he had win across the Ravens shirts a few years back, and it was what's important now, right? So same kind of philosophy about winning the moment, winning today. So I think you're right that our players, your players and our players at Union can take advantage of this time where realistically they have more time to actually train, just not on a field. So
Yeah.
you had mentioned, you guys sent out a weight program, a fitness program, and obviously the skill work. The guys are all challenging themselves. Have you guys, or have you in the past, do you guys do anything as far as the mental side of the game?
Yeah, we're lucky to have a sports psychologist at Georgetown who has conducted some team meetings, some individual meetings with our group of guys, because like Coach Mike's talking about, we've recognized this is a hard time to stay mentally sharp but also is what can we do leadership wise, right? What can we do leadership wise? And so we've met with our captains, we've met with our seniors, we've met with our, some of the upcoming leaders of our team about some of these type of things with the mental side of things. We've specifically focused on leadership in that regard this year, trying to get our, how do you develop captains when you're not even together as a team, right? Like that's really difficult. We worked with our captains on trying to find ways to just stay connected with the group, right? So, but when it comes to mental training, yeah. I mean, you can constantly look at things in terms of ways to stay mentally sharp or to stay mentally focused on what you want to do. And I think using, again, time that you wouldn't normally take because we're doing all kinds of other things, right? To use some of that time to focus on something that you maybe wouldn't have focused on is a really good idea.
Let's pivot a little bit, Mike, from obviously what's going on right now and what we can be doing from a fitness standpoint and keeping sharp to, let's talk about the college recruiting process, right? We got a lot of high school age players on here. You're obviously a college coach. So first and foremost, right, the term is student athlete, right? So talk about how important, not just at Georgetown because it's got a great academic reputation, but your prior stops as well, how important academics play a role in the college recruiting process.
Yeah. I mean, Coach Mike, we see it every day, right? We see it every day, and every year that there's some really, really talented kids who we would take in a heartbeat, right? No matter what school I was at, St. Francis, Notre Dame, Georgetown, wherever, whatever, we would take them in a heartbeat, but they don't have the academic grades, the standards, the test scores, the GPAs to put them into the realm of students that we can get into the school, right? We have to say no to a lot of kids just because they don't have the academic scores high enough to be able to give themselves these opportunities, right? And so one of the things you really want to think about when it comes to academics is don't limit yourself, right? Don't limit yourself. Don't close doors on yourself because you haven't focused on the academic side of things, right? If all you're doing is focusing on your soccer or all you're doing is focusing on your time with your friends and things like that, and you're not focusing on your studies, you're going to miss out on opportunities and you're going to close doors that you won't be able to open up for your future. So unfortunately, we see it all the time. We see it all the time when it comes to recruiting and kids who we love who have no chance of getting into these type of schools. So focus on that. Focus on the academic side of things. Concentrate on your studies. Make sure you're hitting the books as hard as you possibly can to not limit yourselves and not limit your futures by giving yourselves the best chance to go to the best places.
So Mike, you sat here and or illustrated how important it is academically. As a high school coach, I've talked to players about it in the past. I've talked to numerous college coaches that sit here until they're blue in the face and say it, but I don't think really the kids understand that there's not a plethora of athletic money out there to give, and that their academics can actually help the soccer program or the basketball program, whatever they're going to play in college, by saving some athletic money because they have really good academics. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. There's generally three ways, right? There's generally three ways that we can help fund an education, right? For a prospect that we really want to invite to Georgetown. There's really three ways. And this is across the board, no matter what school you're looking at. It's generally soccer dollars, like Coach Mike's talking about, or you're looking at financial aid, or you're looking at academic monies, right? And so all these different schools can offer different things. And, one of the things that I think you really want to focus on, because if your grades are good enough that you can get some academic money from a school, that means it's soccer dollars that might not have to be used for you to get in, that can then be used for someone else. And the way we look at it is it doesn't matter whether you're getting soccer dollars, financial aid, or academic money. We're trying to make it the most affordable we can for each family, right? How do we make this thing affordable? Because college is, again, depending on where you go, anywhere ranging from $20,000 to $80,000, right? Depending on where you go. And so you're looking at an expensive process. And what I also need to know is that for men's soccer, we only have 9.9 scholarships, right? So we only have, in essence, 10 scholarships to give for 28 players. So to think that you're all going to get full scholarships, you're fooling yourself, right? You're fooling yourself. Our best player on Georgetown's team is on $0 soccer dollars, right? $0 soccer dollars. He's on a package of financial aid and academic money, right? And it's not because he doesn't deserve it, because he's not good enough. It's because his family was able to qualify for some need-based aid, and his grades were good enough that they qualified for some academic money, and we were able to get him a pretty competitive package without even touching soccer dollars. So giving us as coaches the ability to move some of those things around by getting good grades is really, really helpful. Plus, it's also going to give you the best chance to get the best package you can get, because if you get the highest level grades you can, some schools, right, most schools can stack soccer dollars on top of your academic money to give you an even bigger package, right? So those are things that we want you to think about when it comes to, again, another real tangible reason, a reason why your parents are going to love you for this is a way to make college even more affordable.
How many kids a year would you say, Mike, there at Georgetown or in your past stops that, you're just at the end of the day unable to recruit, that you had in your recruiting pool for that year, that, hey man, you didn't qualify test score wise or grades?
Wow. Our pool, right? When we look at, let's say, the 2021, 2020 graduating class, we probably start with about 25 to 30 kids that we've really identified, for about 5 or 6 spots, 6 to 7 spots, depending on the year. And we probably eliminate twice that in even the vetting process to get down to those 25 or 30 before we even get it to that small. So a lot of that is exactly what you're talking about, Coach Mike, that we probably eliminate 50 to 60 kids each year that we really like, that we don't even try to recruit because academically, they're not going to get in.
Wow. So talk to us a little bit about, I guess, the do's and don'ts of recruiting. We got a lot of sophomores, juniors on this call, handful maybe of seniors. Talk to us about the do's and don'ts of recruiting, just in short.
Yeah, first and foremost is one, the best thing you can do is make it your process, right? It's not your mom's process. It's not your dad's process. It's not your coach's process, right? It's your process. This is your future we're talking about. So the more that you take this thing seriously and you invest in your process, the better it's going to be for you. I guarantee you, I don't want to hear from your mom, right? I don't want to hear from your dad. I want you to write the email. I want you to invest in your process. I want you to reach out to us talking about your interest in Georgetown or your interest in whatever school you want to go to, right? It's your process. And then the second thing I would really advise you to is, if you can focus on this, right, is don't wait. Don't wait, right? So right now at Georgetown, again, our 2020 class is already done, right? So that means all the high school seniors, we've already recruited our entire class. Our 2021 class, in terms of the juniors, right? We've already recruited 7 out of our 9 spots. Our 2022 class, right? For sophomores, for you guys who are sophomores, we're starting to identify that pool like I was just talking about. We're trying to narrow down that 25 to 30 kid pool of who we're really going to focus on for that year's class. So do not wait, right? If you think you're a sophomore and you have plenty of time, I'll take care of this when I'm a senior. I'll take care of this when I'm a junior. Don't wait, because although there are many schools that handle this differently, right? There are many schools that handle it differently. A lot of schools are trying to get ahead and trying to address those needs earlier and earlier and earlier. And I would just advise you, do not wait and make it your own process.
What's when you talk about that process and the actual reaching out process, Mike, what's the best way to do it? Is it an email? Is it an actual letter in the mail? Do you want video of the player? What's the best way for you?
Yeah, I mean, what you guys got to understand, right, is that we are getting hit by email from I probably get 25 to 30 a day of kids who want to come to Georgetown, right? So what I would advise you to do as best as you can is try to find out ways to separate yourself, right? How do you make yourself a little bit different from the guy next to you? And without going overboard, without writing 10 paragraphs, because I can't read 10 paragraphs, right? I just don't have time for that. So how do you let us know who you are, where you're from, who you're playing with, where you'll be playing, right? Where you'll be playing, like what tournaments you're going to, what events you're going to, and as best as you can, try to just make sure that you put yourself on our radar with those type of things. And generally what will happen, right? Here's what will generally happen is when we get these letters, right, we're going to put you into our database, which means you will then be part of our distribution process in terms of who we're mailing out camp info to, who we're sending, questionnaires to, those type of things. But the key is that you're going to be on that database, so you're going to also know what we're up to. And then also write these coaches before you go to events. So I would hit them once with your interest letter and then hit them again with an email saying, okay, I'm going to be at Potomac. I'm going to be at Jefferson Cup. These are my games. This is where I'm going to be playing. Please come out and watch. And I think if you do that, you've got a realistic chance of having some college coaches come to your games.
Mike, there's a big, I guess, clubs play against each other, recruiting wars, all that stuff, and tell parents a bunch of things along the way. But as far as college recruiting, does it matter what bracket you're in a tournament? No.
Does it matter what bracket? The answer to that question is yes and no, right? The answer to that question is yes and no. If I'm at the Potomac tournament, for example, or Jefferson Cup, and you know that a lot of the better teams are in one bracket, you're going to watch those games. Okay? You're going to watch some of those games because generally some of those teams that produce, state cup championship type teams or whatever, or regional championship teams are in that bracket. You're going to watch those games. But to say that that's exclusively where I sit, no, 100% no. I'm going to go out and look under every rock. One of the things I loved doing, especially when I was at St. Francis, was looking under every rock because there's tons of good players out there. And what I'm also going to do is I'm also going to focus on who's interested in me, right? Who wants to come to my school? So if you write a letter saying, okay, I really, really want to come to Georgetown or whatever school, pick it. You can pick your school. Because you've shown great interest in our school makes you all that much more attractive to me as a coach, which means there's a better chance that I'll go watch bracket B or bracket C, bracket D, whatever, because there's a kid who really wants to come to us. And so to say that I wouldn't watch the top tier, of course I do. But there's also a lot more games that have lots of good players in them as well.
What about recruiting apps and services where people pay a fee? Are those a waste of time or,
Well, recruiting in general is about creating opportunities, right? Creating opportunities for yourself to be seen. What I would say is if you're having a hard time being seen, right? Being seen, then something like this could make sense. In general for us at Georgetown, we don't really do much with them. Just being completely honest with you, if we were to get a letter from a recruiting agency saying you need to look at this kid, well, okay, well maybe, maybe we'll take a look at him, maybe we'll watch his video. It doesn't necessarily move anyone up or down the list in terms of who we're looking for, because we want to go out and watch the kids that we think we want to go see. But at the same time, if you're having a hard time creating opportunities, right, something like this could help. Right? Because those things do put videos in front of coaches. They do write letters for you if you don't know how to do that. So those are some things that can be helpful. But what I would say is the majority of at least a lot of the Division I schools probably don't do much with recruiting services.
Okay. So we talked about some of the do's of recruiting, the better practices. Some of the don'ts would be a big topic. Seems to be social media. Have you ruled out players because of their social media page?
100%. One of the most important things we look at before we offer a kid, right, before we say we're going to offer you scholarship dollars or a spot on our team, is we'll look through their Twitter, we'll look through their Instagram, we'll look through their Facebook, and we'll see, okay, what is this kid all about? Especially when he doesn't think he's being seen, right? Because if you think your Twitter and your Instagram is private, it's not. Right? It's not private. These things, these messages, they get out there easily, right? And so it's easy for us to find out this information. It's easy for us to see these things. So if you've got stuff on your Twitter, you got stuff on your Instagram that is maybe isn't the best stuff for you to have out there, clean that stuff up, because we have certainly eliminated players because of some stuff we've seen on there. And it's like, why do I want to bring that into my team if that's what he's going to post on his Instagram? No, we don't want to deal with that stuff. So clean that stuff up. Be very, very careful about what you're putting on your Twitter feed, right? I would review it even tonight. Like, review it tonight. What am I putting out there? What are people seeing about me that might affect my college career, that might affect my employment down the road too.
Yep. So what do you think about, I guess, ID clinics or camps? There's a lot of those out there. How do you differentiate between those? Some are big money, some aren't. What do you think about those?
Yeah, for us, obviously, we are in the college business that does run camps, and what I would say is 100% they can be useful. But what I would caution with you is make sure that you're being selective about which ones you go to, because every school runs one. Some, as Coach Mike is saying, are more about making dollars than about giving you opportunities. And again, what you want to think about, okay, is where can I go be seen by the places that I want to see me, right? That's something I want you to think about. So for us, Georgetown, right, we do offer camps. We do, like every college. And what I would say is find out how many kids on their roster have actually been seen at their camp. And so what I can say, when I was at Notre Dame, of our 28 guys, 21 of them have actually been seen through camp, right? Huge percentage of kids that were recruited through camp to come into the team, huge percentage. At Georgetown the same, it's about 60-40. So we've got about 60% of our kids that have actually been recruited through camps. So how do you find that information out? Can you talk to the coaches? Can you do some homework in terms of who's on the roster, right? And actually do some research into, okay, are they really looking for players, or are they trying to line their pockets with cash? And that's what I want you to think about when it comes to these things is this a good opportunity for me to be seen, and especially to be seen by who I want to be seen by? And I would think about that. And then I would think about, okay, is this something that is realistic for me? In terms of Harvard, right? You might want to go to Harvard's camp because it's Harvard, right? So tremendous school. But if you don't have the grades to go to Harvard or an Ivy League school, don't go to Harvard's camp, right? Don't go. Or if you're thinking about, you want to play Division I college soccer, right? And you want to go to Georgetown, or you want to go to Maryland, or you want to go to UVA, whatever, some of the best places in the country to play. Well, maybe your coaches and maybe your parents and maybe you should think about, can I play at that level? Because if I can't play at that level, then maybe I should focus my dollars on going to someplace else, going to some other school to see where I might be able to fit in better. So those are things to think about when it comes to college camp process. I 100% recommend them, but be thoughtful about where you go and why. Good
answer. So I'll ask you one more question, and then I'll open it up to Q&A here for the group. But the last question would be centered around the college recruiting process and the COVID issue that we have going on. So, there's a lot of juniors and seniors out there that weren't able to get seen at spring showcases and things like that. What's your take on their specific situation?
Yeah, really challenging, right? Really challenging. And again, nothing that any of us could foresee. But what I could tell you is there's a ton of schools out there that still have a lot of roster spots to give because they've just not been able to see. I mean, I know when I was at St. Francis, I constantly was picking up kids as seniors, even up until Easter, even up until maybe a month or two before they graduated. It's just how the recruiting process worked in some of the smaller schools, right? And so there's tons of roster spots still to be had. Again, and the key is to be able to get yourself out there, right? Do you have any videos that you've taken, that a parent has taken, that you can get from a tournament, that your club coach might have, to be able to give you the chance to send these out for you to be seen, right? Or at worst, if you don't have any of those and you really want to go to some of these schools, can you start to have people call for you? Can you have people reference for you, right? So can you have your high school coach? Can you have your club coach? Can you have these people who know your level reach out to some of these schools for you to say, okay, this kid really is interested in your school. He really wants to come. I think he'd be a great fit for you. How do we get him on your radar? And so you start getting the word out a little bit that way. So can you create opportunities through your videos? Can you create opportunities through your references? And as best as you can, whenever this thing slows down, right? Hopefully we're all out in the field soon, hopefully, right? Get out there and be seen by those coaches as best as you can.
Great. You ready for some questions from the group, Mike?
Yeah, whatever guys have.
Cool. So I'll open it up for questions, gang. If you want to send it through the chat, I'm looking at that and I can ask the question for you. or you can take yourself off mute and ask a question. Just let's each be respectful of each other. So let us know what you got as far as questions here for Coach Casper. Anything's on the table. Anyone want to break the silence first?
I have a question.
Yep, go ahead. Go ahead, Anthony.
So like for some of the guys on my team, I think we're kind of having all this same sense of like how recruitment's going to work for the future for us. My question is for the best way to be recruited. Do you think that solely this summer, like these ID camps for schools are going to be better, or I know my dad just put out a sheet that a lot more tournaments are going to be like scheduled for the summer. So what do you think is going to be like best to invest our time into?
Anthony, great question. Great question. Again, both, right? Both, because depending on how long this thing goes, our windows are going to narrow, right? Our window is going to narrow. If we're going to school in August, right? If we're having our fall season as normal, and say this thing stops and we're able to get out in the field in July, get out in July. So we've got 1 month to possibly do as much as we can. Now, again, what you want to think about is how can I create opportunity for myself to be seen, right? So going to these tournaments, right? Tournaments could be a great opportunity because there's going to be a lot of schools still recruiting that these coaches might be able to come to your game and watch. Awesome, right? Awesome opportunity, great idea. Also think about camps. If you have a specific school that you want to go to, or you want to really be seen by this collection of schools, consider that as well, because that's going to give you opportunities a bit more specific to be seen by that coach. We're going to a tournament will give you opportunity to be seen by potentially more coaches over the span of a weekend. So if you want specifics, hit more of a camp. If you want to have broader recruiting, hit more of a tournament.
And Mike, I mean, I think you said it a little bit, but just to make sure I heard you right, there's a big misconception out there that everyone's signing on the dotted line on the first day possible, right? You said it. It's right up through their senior year down to the last minute, even with some very good players who play on very good club teams.
Yeah, right. I mean, if you think about when our signing date is, and some kids, of course, some kids are going to sign on those dates, right? Because that's allowed. They've decided their process, where they wanted to go. The family was ready and the school was ready to determine that and make that a real option for them. What I would also say is that everybody's timeline is different, right? Everyone's timeline is different. You might not be ready to make a decision at that point, right? You might not have been seen by enough people. And what most college coaches do, right? I've never been at a place. I've been at 4 wonderful schools. I've never been at a place that every one of our kids was signed by signing day, right? Every place I've ever been, every year, we're always going beyond that in terms of finding kids, in terms of getting kids to make commitments, because everybody's timeline, everybody's process is a little bit different. So if you feel pressure because some of your buddies or this kid committed already, I wouldn't necessarily burden yourself with that kind of pressure. All that means is that your timelines are different and that there's still opportunity for you to be seen and to get out there and have those opportunities.
Cool. Any other questions from the group?
I have a question.
Go ahead, Chris.
So what are the ideal characteristics that any type of competitive, decent college goalkeeper should have?
Good question, Chris. Coach Mike was, I don't know if you know this about him. I'm sure you do. We call him the Bobcat, right? Because he was an unbelievable goalkeeper back in his college days. And believe it or not, he was actually flying around the goal, 100% flying around the goal, making all kinds of saves. But what does a goalkeeper need to do to be competitive at the highest level? You got to have a range of skills, right? It's not just one thing to focus on, but what is your ability to, of course, make saves, right? Can you make saves? the most important thing, right, is keeping the ball out of the net. So do you have the ability to make the saves that you need to make? Are you technically trained to be able to make those saves? Two, how do you do controlling your box? Can you control the box on the ground? Can you control the box in the air? Are you able to cover that space adequately as needed? And then, three, how are your feet? Especially at Georgetown, we value playing out of the back and being able to, have our goalkeepers be able to start attacks or keep possession, right? If we play back to them, we don't just want the ball always hooked up down the field, but rather connected and collected, and then they can play a pass out to one of our other players. So how are their feet, right? Are they comfortable with their feet? And then lastly, I guess I would say is what is your communication like? Do you have the ability to help organize and communicate to your back four, to your midfield, right? So you're putting out some of these fires before the problems really start. And so I guess those would be the things I would think about is one, can you make saves? Two, can you control your box? Three is how good are your feet? And then four is what is your communication / leadership ability back there to be able to, communicate to your players?
Casper, I'll kind of chime in there, not just for goalkeepers, but for field players as well. Like the size matters, so to speak. Like, are we looking for prototypical players at a certain height and certain weight all the time?
No, by all means. I mean, if you look at Messi, right? Messi's what, 5'6", 5'7", he's the best player in the world, arguably. And then you got Cristiano Ronaldo, who's 6'3", right? So I mean, this can vary, it can range. When you're looking at size and speed and athleticism, I'd be lying to you if I said it didn't matter. Because it does matter. But what I'd also say is how good is your ability? How good is your decision making? How good is your technical skill? Because a lot of these things can overshadow either a lack of size or just because you're big and fast. If you can't touch the ball and control the ball, you got no shot, right? So what I'd say is athleticism certainly plays a factor into it, but you need to be focusing on the details of the game to make yourself more complete.
Very good. Any other questions, gang? Oh, I got one on the side. What's the best content to include in an email to a college coach? Because we aren't given the opportunities to prove ourselves to a coach on the field right now.
Yeah, great question. Again, a little bit like we talked about, again, who you are, right? Who you play for. Some references about you. Your college coach, your high school coach, some references there that people can find some information about you. And then as best as you can, if you have a video, right? If you have a video, put it in there. And I would start with highlights. Again, don't send me a 90-minute film because I don't have time to watch it. I will not watch the whole 90-minute film. What I would say is send me about 5 to 7 minutes of clips that kind of demonstrates a little bit of the type of player that you are. And then if I like that, generally what I would then do is reach out to you for more film. And then I'd say, okay, well, do you have a whole game? Do you have a 90-minute game I can watch? Or do you have multiple games I can watch? Because I don't have time to watch every game that every kid sends me. And that's just across the board. Every coach is going to tell you the same thing. So again, your name, where you're from, who you play for, your high school, your club team, some references if you can, some video highlights if you can, and then also, where you're going to be playing if we ever get to the point that we're out there on the field again playing, which is hopefully soon.
We'll throw it out there for one last question. If anybody has one last question. Oh, here's another one on the side. Has the NCAA started talking about student GPA is going to be calculated given the fact that quarters are being combined? I'm not sure if you heard about that yet, Mike Casper.
I haven't heard anything definitive. You mean in terms of college GPAs or high school?
No, so for the high school juniors and seniors right now, the third and the fourth quarter are being combined as one because they're out of school.
Okay. No, in terms of the college ranks, I haven't heard much about that. I would imagine some of the NCAA standards, in terms of core courses and becoming an NCAA qualifier, going through the eligibility is still going to remain similar. But I would think that especially through this time, there's certainly going to be some leeway given, I would imagine, on some of these standards. But at the end of the day, I would still focus on hitting your core standards as best as you can for the eligibility center, and just guarantee that you're going to give yourself those chances. But to be honest, I've not heard a whole lot about that yet.
Sure. Last call for questions, guys and gals. Well, Coach Casper, it's been about almost an hour, just shy of an hour. I want to thank you for your time. Some really good questions. I think we covered a lot here tonight. If there's like maybe one thing you could leave us with, or, to just the players in general, you want to have at it.
Yeah, again, Coach Mike, thank you for the time to be here with you guys. I really value it. I appreciate it. I love seeing what your club is doing. It's one of the reasons why I love being involved. Seeing some of the things that you guys are doing in the community. You're raising money, you're raising funds, getting meals and things for frontline people, right, who are dealing firsthand with this every day. I think it's unbelievable what you guys are doing. I really think it's cool. And the fact that this club is so involved with the community, and trying to make the community better, not just having a soccer experience, but that you're involved in the community, I think is really, really awesome. And I'm really happy to be here tonight working with you guys, because I know your vision is such that you're not just focused on soccer, but you're focused on the big picture in terms of helping your community and creating better individuals. And I guess what I would say is follow what you're passionate about, right? Consider really it is what you want. What do you really want? And then focus on making yourself better at that every day you possibly can. And tomorrow when you wake up, Tuesday, what a great day to get a little bit better, to get a little bit sharper, and to go out and win that day tomorrow. And if you can do that, you're stepping forward towards better things for you, no matter what you're interested in.
Coach Casper, thanks. We appreciate it. We look forward to seeing you guys, all of us, out on the field again sometime soon. And, we really appreciate taking an hour out of your day tonight and talking with us.
My pleasure. Thanks, Coach Mike. Look forward to seeing you guys again.
Thanks, guys, for joining.
Thank you. Mhm.